Speaking today in chapel are four members of the graduating class of 2012. Brian David, Brandan Alford, Peter Robbins, and myself, Tyler Wade. We'll read to you a couple of short bios from the four speakers, and then we'll start first with Peter Robbins. Brian David is a senior rhetoric major, econ minor with an area of concentration in education and the business sequence. Originally from New Milford, New Jersey, Brian is proud to call Indiana his second home. He is a brother of Phi Gamma Delta, serves on the senior council, and runs cross country and track and field. This past fall, he became a two-time academic All-American and will be trying to help the outdoor track team defend their NCAC title next weekend. Next year, Brian will be pursuing a master's in education with a focus in literacy at Loyola Marymount University, where he will serve in the Partners in Los Angeles Catholic Education and teach 5 sections of junior English at Cathedral High School in Los Angeles, California. Also speaking today is Brandan Alford. Brandan is a native of West Lafayette, Indiana, and is a political science major. He is a member of Beta Theta Pi fraternity, where he served as president in 2011. He was a representative for the class of 2012 and student senate during his junior and senior years. He has written for The Bachelor during his 4 years here, serving as sports editor for the past 2 years and managing editor during the fall semester of this year. Following graduation, he will attend Ball State University this fall to pursue a master's in journalism degree. Also speaking today is Peter Robbins. Peter comes from Indianapolis, Indiana. He is a French major and Spanish minor. During his time at Wabash, he's been a member of the Lambda Chi Alpha fraternity and has served as editor-in-chief of The Bachelor. This fall, he will be going to IU Moore Law School in Bloomington. Finally, speaking today is me, Tyler Wade. I am a political science major who will be attending Miami University in the fall to study for my master's degree in student affairs and higher education. During my time at Wabash, I've been a member of Phi Gamma Delta, served as vice president of the student body, and as president of the Sphinx Club. Without further ado, please welcome Peter Robbins.
Good morning. While contemplating what I should talk about the one time in my life I'll do a chapel talk, I decided to give a speech about Ezra Pound, the most famous person to ever receive a paycheck and a severance package from this place. As you may know, Pound was fired from Wabash in 1908 for having a traveling musician girl in his bedroom. He wasn't on campus, and it was his landlady who found him, but in those times the faculty were expected to maintain Presbyterian values, and President George McIntosh determined that Pound's actions were unbecoming of a professor. As we debate the nature of faculty-student relations here, it is interesting to wonder whether by 1908 Wabash had developed a kind of interaction standard between faculty and students that is similar to the one we have today. And if so, whether McIntosh's decision was made partly because Pound would have been seen as a role model who would negatively affect the morals of the student body. Let me just say on a small tangent that while Pound's firing is today seen as a casualty of the puritanical society of that time, the event that happened this year involving a faculty member might be seen in much the same way 10, 20, 50, or 100 years from now. For better or for worse, we are bound by the laws and mores of our time. Getting back to Pound, I think it's funny that when people think about his firing, their reaction is often, Wabash really missed out on a great mind. As if it were some mistake akin to the Portland Trail Blazers passing up the chance to draft Michael Jordan in favor of Sam Bowie. Interestingly, McIntosh actually wrote a letter to Pound regretting the firing and asking him to come back to Wabash. But whether or not Pound deserved to get fired, I think in the end it turned out for the better. For one thing, Pound was basically a horrible person. I think it's important to consider that his outrage about World War I was certainly fueled by the fact that he was living in England, where the impact of the war was much worse than it was here. Who knows if he would have become such a fervent anti-Semite and Mussolini supporter if he hadn't been living in Italy during Mussolini's rise. Either way, he doesn't sound like the kind of person you would want shaping the young, very impressionable minds of Wabash College, which, I might add, are renewed each year and would have been renewed for Pound to impression each year. Secondly, Pound eventually became one of the most important poets in the English language, and I have to believe that if he had been living in Crawfordsville, Indiana his whole life, while he may still have written some poetry, it wouldn't have been as good. Crawfordsville is sadly not as inspiring a muse as Pisa, Italy. This speech is not in any way a reflection of how I feel about this year's events. I simply want to offer a new perspective on one of the biggest decisions this college has ever made. While we may feel like we are a small, insulated place, Wabash, in firing Pound, made a huge difference in the history of English literature. With his severance package, Pound funded his trip to Europe, and the rest is history. My other objective is to attempt to put my finger on what makes a good Wabash professor. I think we're all trying to do that, and maybe at least I'm trying to determine one set of traits that makes a bad one. Pound's case is a perfect example of something I've learned here that I believe very strongly. This place is not for everyone. It is not perfect, it needs a lot of work, and it is tailored to the kinds of students that are interested in learning on their own terms. Wabash is what you make of it. I've had several friends drop out or transfer from this place because they didn't invest themselves in it. Their problem was not in classes. They all dropped out because they weren't happy here. Wabash is not always enjoyable, and it's necessary to set up a safety net of therapeutic outlets before the time you inevitably hit rock bottom. It takes more than brilliance to be a Wabash professor. It takes someone who can guide students toward happiness, and every student's needs are different. We often talk about Wabash as a brotherhood, and having grown up in a Wabash household, I know several alumni who feel no attachment to the college today, and their common denominator is that they were generally unhappy while they were here. I think Pound would have been the kind of professor who led students astray and drove them to be militant, disgruntled, and fueled by fear, much like he was later in life. If Bill Plaker fit the archetypal mold of the Wabash professor, Pound was the antithesis. Both men expressed disapproval over a major military conflict, but the manifestations of their feelings could not have been more different. One preached pacifism in a commencement speech. The other publicly supported Mussolini, Hitler, and Franco, and refused to condemn the Holocaust after the Second World War. So I think it's pretty simple to, I don't know. Where some schools use students to make strides in academic fields, Wabash uses academic fields to make strides in students. Some students and faculty belong at research institutions, and there's nothing wrong with that. Pound would have been a great professor at one of them, assuming he hadn't gone to Europe and fallen off his rocker. In any case, the days of scoffing at Pound's firing are over. I, for one, am proud of my school for letting Ezra Pound spread his fascist wings and fly away. Thank you.
Good morning, Wabash. I cannot begin to express how humbled I am by this opportunity to speak to you all this morning. But I don't want to admit how fast the past 4 years flew by, because for me, they didn't. These past 4 years sometimes felt like 9. The constant papers, tests, movies, pledge activities, fraternity obligations, meetings upon meetings, and races, they always loomed over me as I know they loom over you. But that is what makes this place special. It is the constant work and the need to always be working. That separates us from many other college students throughout this country. To the seniors here today, congratulations. We only have a couple days left. Days. Hearing those words make me feel a little warm inside. The past 4 years have been an experience I will never forget. It has taken dedication, sacrifice, and most importantly, persistence. Not just to you, but for your families and friends as well. I can't wait to walk under that arch with you as my brothers for the first time in my life. To the freshmen, good luck. You have just made it past your first year, almost. For me, that was the hardest part of my journey, but for others, it is just the beginning. There are going to be times when you are pulled in multiple directions, and you're going to have to make some difficult choices. I wish you the best of luck as you pursue your degree from one of the greatest colleges where true learning takes place in and outside of the classroom. And finally, to the current sophomores and juniors, there is light at the end of the tunnel. I remember when I was struggling, and I mean really struggling, with everything that goes on here. Whether that was pursuing leadership in clubs on campus, working my butt off to get a B in almost every econ class I've ever taken, or living with men fraternally for the past 4 years. My piece of advice for you is to rely on each other, and I mean to really rely on each other. I remember during the ringing-in ceremony with President White, and he read us an excerpt from Shakespeare's St. Crispin Day speech. Some of the famous lines in that speech included, "We few, we happy few, we band of brothers, for he today who sheds his blood with me shall be my brother." And while Wabash doesn't necessarily occur in one day, we do figuratively shed our blood here, and we are all brothers because of it. But you have to have someone here who will hold you accountable, whether that is a pledged brother, a teammate, or a friend you made down the hall. You need someone to talk to cry to vent to. What makes this place so different is that there are so many strong men to befriend. I have never met such great men in my life before. I know that my friends here will always have my back, whether that is traveling hundreds of miles to watch me race cross-country at nationals, accompany cross-country back home through the worst snowstorm I've ever experienced in my life, or talking to me after my dad was diagnosed with cancer and my mom got sick. My brothers here will always support me. So my advice to all of you today is to truly find a brother here at Wabash who will stick with you through thick and thin. Additionally, as for my advice to everyone who goes here, in the words of my pledge brother Cameron McDougall, who said so quite eloquently a couple nights ago, do not box yourself in once you get here. Too often, people have a plan, and the stakes to achieve that plan make their individual lives miserable. Absolutely miserable. That is not the way life is supposed to be lived. What this means is to keep your options open. For many of us, we came to Wabash with a concrete plan for what we wanted to do for the rest of our lives. For about 90% of us, we changed our career path or short-term goals while being here. And I can't tell you how important it is to be willing to take the path less traveled. We come here from all over the country, but too many of us have already chosen the roads through which we want to live the rest of our lives. Sometimes that includes becoming a doctor, lawyer, or a rich businessman. While those are all great career paths, not everybody is meant to fit in those categories. Sometimes people try and squeeze themselves together into these small classifications when there are other options which better suit them. I know some of my classmates who absolutely hate waking up every single morning to take a particular class or a major because that is what is expected of them, and that is a travesty. But my advice for everyone here is to take a break and find what makes you really happy. What drives you? What job, career, major, club, activity, sport will you wake up to every morning with a smile on your face? That is what you should be doing. Live the way you want to live it. Sometimes sacrificing money for love is the way life is meant to be. I want everybody here today to be able to wake up in 10 years next to their wife, girlfriend, partner, and go to work with a smile on their face because they love their life. Money is not the end-all be-all, and while many of us will wind up making a lot of money in our lives, if you can't wake up happy every day to be living your life, it's not worth it. Back home in New Jersey, I've caddied at a prestigious country club since I was 13 years old. And yes, that is a very long time to work at one place. And through my time there, I've met members who are filthy rich. Some members driving Aston Martins, some members CEO of companies. But some of these members absolutely hate their lives. Yes, they are rich. They live in a nice house. They so-called live the American dream. But they have absolutely dreaded their lives during the first 20, 30 years out of college. One member who I've gotten to know pretty well is a very powerful lawyer in New York City. But he said that if he was to do it again, he wouldn't. It wasn't worth the sacrifice to his family and children. He would rather have worked in something else. His advice is the same advice I'm giving you today. Do what makes you happy. This past weekend, I had the privilege to fly out to Los Angeles for a graduate school orientation weekend at Loyola Marymount University. And during my time there, I met some of the most inspirational people you'll ever meet. People who came from colleges from all over the country, such as Cornell, UCLA, Stanford, Georgetown, Notre Dame, and others like myself from a very small, sometimes all-male liberal arts college in the middle of nowhere. But everyone there knew that teaching made them happy. And I know from just the short amount of time I spent there that I had made the correct decision for me because of the people around me who were so passionate for what they were doing. But I have to first thank my father for not letting me give up my passion for education. See, my sophomore year here, I didn't think I could do it. I thought I could graduate, but I was so driven to be a rhetoric major, econ minor, business sequence, and education concentration that I was burning myself at both ends. I was so close to dropping my education concentration to give myself more time to excel in other subjects. And I mean very close. I had the drop slip in my hand. I was ready to walk into Dr. Pittard and Dr. McDormand's office and tell them that I was ready to quit. But my dad wouldn't let me. He knew that I had a passion for education, and even though at the time I wanted to go into business, he wanted me to try one more class to see if it was the right fit. And I thank God every day for my blessings that I did not take that drop slip to my professors. After all the teaching experience I've had here at Wabash, through the teacher ed department, I know that this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. But yet, I was so close to quitting, yet I know so many of you are as well, to quit the thing that you are most passionate about. And I know that I was living a lie when I was saying that to myself. I was saying that I'd be willing to give up teaching for a job in business because it will make my life easier. And that is not the way to live your life. Sometimes life is going to be an uphill battle, and sometimes you're going to lose. But in those moments of failure and struggle, we find ourselves and what makes us happy, what makes us passionate. And I know that I am not the only senior here who has had a similar experience. But I know that when I move out to Southern California this summer and I start teaching, there are times I'm going to struggle. There are times I wish I had more time in the day, times when I fail my students. But I know that this is what makes me happy. I know I can wake up every morning with a smile on my face. And I know that after this experience, this chance to teach kids where I can have a huge impact on their lives, not only in the classroom, but in their personal lives as well, I can wake up happy. In fact, I would be disappointing this institution, my family, my friends, and my teammates if I didn't do what makes me happy, because they have invested so much time, money, and energy into my life. So my advice for all of you is to keep your options open as you continue to pursue your Wabash education. Even if you don't like your job, if you're still searching for a job, find something to smile about every day. But by boxing yourself into a specific career path or academic route, you may be missing out on what really makes you happy. I almost made the biggest mistake in my life by penciling myself into a particular career, but I'm happy I had other people in my life who wouldn't let me. That is why having close brothers, those here at Wabash, who challenge you, who argue with you, who cry with you, who laugh with you, who talk to you at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 5 a.m. in the morning. You need those brothers who will not let you paint yourself in a corner that you can't escape from. Rely on them to find what truly makes you happy, and sometimes that involves taking the road less traveled. Thank you, Wabash, and finish strong, because Wabash always fights.
Good morning, everybody. First and foremost, I'd like to say thank you to Ryan Lutz and the Sphinx Club for the opportunity to come up here and speak to all of you today. This is a great opportunity for us four as seniors to talk about our experience here at Wabash, and hopefully it's an event that will continue long after this year. It's amazing to think that in less than 2 weeks, the class of 2012 will be graduating. It's been an eventful, exciting, and at times frustrating run in Crawfordsville for us. We have seen amazing accomplishments and awful disasters. We've come together in times of need and faced divisive issues on a number of fronts here on campus. But I know, at least for me, it's been an incredible ride. To be honest, I've had trouble deciding exactly what I wanted to talk about today. It's an absolute cop-out, but there's so many topics that have had such a profound impact on my time here, it was difficult to find just one to discuss. This college is unique for so many reasons, and many of those reasons are why each of you chose to come here. And once here, there have been a multitude of reasons why we stay. For me, most of those reasons are you, my classmates and professors who have made this place so special. So I decided to talk about my time here, the lows, the highs, and the times in between. I've certainly had an up and down experience here at Wabash, to say the least. For those of you who know me well, might know exactly how miserable I was for this place for the first semester, and to a certain extent, my entire freshman year. I managed to have the unbelievable capacity to be homesick only 25 miles from home. My disdain for the school could be best summed up by Parents' Weekend during the fall of my freshman year. The minute that my obligations at the football game were complete, I had my parents, quote, "get me the hell home." Pledship was an interesting semester, to say the least. If nothing else, that semester developed my ability to come up with more and more creative reasons to go home on weekends, a skill I believe I mastered by December of that year. About 3 weeks into that first semester, I was convinced I was leaving. I had come to Wabash not wanting to go to Purdue like the rest of my high school classmates, and 3 weeks later, I wanted nothing more to be back there. Obviously, I decided against leaving, and decided I would stick it out here. That whole experience, while funny now, was anything but 3 years ago. But through that process, I learned several important lessons. Most of all, never confide in Tyler Wade in a time of need. His response will be cold-hearted sarcasm. That's a mistake I never plan to make again. But when I think back about my decision to stay at Wabash, I think about what led me to that decision. For the most part, when it came down to deciding what I was willing to sacrifice, for me, the one thing I couldn't sacrifice were the incredible friendships and bonds I had developed with my pledge brothers during our first year here. Earlier this week, we had our Beta Senior Speak Night, where the members of the senior class get to talk about whatever they want to for the rest of the house and enjoy some adult beverages for those of age. My roommate, Brian Shelbourne, talked about the sacrifices we make to go to Wabash. And I think that's really a great way to frame why we go to Wabash. I don't think I have to detail all the sacrifices we make to go to school here. Many of them are pretty obvious. But we come to Wabash knowing most of those sacrifices up front. And it's a matter of what we hope to gain from those sacrifices that lead us to this place. This may be oversimplifying things, but our decision for the most part is an agreement to sacrifice short-term accommodations in exchange for a better chance at long-term successes. When you agree to go to Wabash, you also agree to have a more long-term view on your college experience. We don't come here for the parties, although we do a pretty good job of throwing those. We obviously don't come here for a better chance at women. And we absolutely don't come here for an easy curriculum and blow-off classes. We come here for a diploma that has significant meaning. We come here for an alumni network that so many of us are already experiencing the benefits of. We come here for a sense of community and brotherhood that other schools just don't understand. What that means is when you arrive on campus, is you are walking into a community of about 900 young men who have the same motivations you do, the same ambitions you do, and the same ability to focus on long-term goals over short-term enjoyments. And that's what makes this place special. We all understand each other. We understand why we struggle. And we understand how important overcoming those struggles can be. We have unique institutions, traditions, and ways of being here at Wabash. But none of them are what makes this place special. It's the people here. The gentleman's rule doesn't make this place special. The students and faculty willing to come to a place governed by a single vague policy make this place special. The fact that Wabash is renowned for student-faculty relationships doesn't make this place special. Faculty and students willing and able to engage in each other in the here and now are what make this place special. What I'm trying to say is that you, all of you, students, faculty, staff, and alumni, make this place so amazing. And no matter what may change here, the gentleman's rule, faculty policy, the curriculum, as long as this place continues to bring in the type of people who are in this chapel today, this place will be special. The graduating class of 2012 has had an unbelievably eventful 4 years here. Our undergraduate years have been bookended by the tragedy of the death of a classmate and a current dispute that has caused waves of division throughout the student body and faculty alike. But I think it would be short-sighted if those were the events that defined our time here as students. We have seen amazing achievements in the classroom and in the community. We have been a part of one of the most all-around successful periods of time in Wabash athletics. Our class will graduate 3-1 in bell games, including a pair of blowouts to end our 4 years. We saw conference championships in a number of sports, and we had classmates excelling at the national level. These are the events that should define our time here at Wabash, because there are too many successes on this campus for them not to define our experience. I've talked a lot about the people here and why I believe they're what make this place so great. So I think I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you to all the people who made my experience here as exciting and fulfilling as it has been. First and foremost, I have to say thank you to my parents, who were kind enough to come out to today's chapel and watch me talk. They've always served as an amazing support system for me, and I'll always be thankful for that. Next, I want to thank my fraternity brothers, and most importantly, my pledge brothers. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be at Wabash anymore. When I was all but transferred out of Wabash, the relationships I had developed with all you is what made me second-guess that decision and stick it out here. You've all seen me grow up from a snarky freshman to a slightly less snarky senior. You all have been there for my best memories of this place, and it's been an amazing ride living alongside you for the past 4 years, so thank you. I want to thank all the athletes and coaches on the various athletic teams that I've covered in my 4 years for the Bachelor. I'm sure the last thing most of you wanted to do was sit and talk to me and answer my questions for 15 or 20 minutes, but all of you have been awesome to work with. Getting to know all of you has been a great experience. I want to thank all the professors that have had an impact on me during my time here, especially my advisor, Professor Hurl. I want to thank Howard Hewitt, Jim Amidon, and Brent Harris in the Public Affairs Office. You three have helped me develop as a writer in ways I couldn't expect and have given me the opportunities to grow and expand my skills while finding what I want to do for the rest of my life. That was going to be the end of my thank yous, but I was told by some fellow seniors I probably should mention the cactus, which has had a pretty big impact on my 4 years here. So thank you to that and several 8 a.m.s, which I'm sure Professor Hurl wasn't enjoying having me there on Friday mornings. 2 weeks ago, mentioning Professor Hurl, she gave an amazing talk in which she discussed the concept of an oasis, a place where you can return with the comforts at home, if just for a short while. I'm convinced that if Wabash continues to attract the same kind of people who have made my experience here so incredible, this place can always be an oasis for me, even long after I've graduated. Thank you very much.
Good morning again, Wabash. I stand before you in this chapel that I have visited many times before today. Chapel is one of my favorite traditions at the college. I have missed only 2 of them during my time here. Since first coming to Wabash in August of 2008, we have almost constantly lived in interesting times. As we mark the conclusion of another year at this college, and as the men of the class of 2012 prepare to graduate, I think it appropriate that we take stock of where we have been and look forward to where we will go. My initial talk was one that my roommate, Andrew Alexander, suggested was too depressing, and, well, it probably was. The men of the class of 2012 have seen incredible sadness during our time here. We have seen 2 of our classmates pass away. A fraternity has been shut down. Strife has been almost constant between students, faculty, and administrators. The worst economic crisis since the Great Depression is one in which we lived. Faculty cuts, the end of cultures and traditions. For a class that came to Wabash while President Barack Obama was still Senator Obama and campaigning for the presidency, change seems to have been an appropriate mantra to describe our time. Some mourn change. Just last week, the college community received a letter from Wabash alumnus and professor of religion Steve Webb that articulate the reasons Dr. Webb will not be attending baccalaureate. Dr. Webb and others like him mourn what has become of Wabash. They speak in phrases like Old Wabash and New Wabash. While I respect their right to have that opinion, I do not share it. This, I think, is one of the great strengths of the college. There is not one definition of Wabash. It means many things to many different people. I did not come here with that knowledge. Many of my closest friends can tell you that I've spent my fair share of time trying to get everyone to think the same way that I do about Wabash. I love this place. I have learned a lot from this place, and for the most part, I think the changes that have been made during this time have been made for the better. It seems weird that this all-male college in west central Indiana, a place known for its staunch conservatism, has been in many ways defined by change, even if that change has been met with staunch resistance. President Lewis Hopkins came to Wabash during the 1930s. He had the unfortunate situation to follow a beloved president in George McIntosh. The Wabash Hopkins came to was much different than the Wabash we know today, and he is a large reason for that. He spearheaded efforts to end athletic scholarships, implemented senior comprehensive exams, and recruited some of the brightest scholars of his day to come and teach here. These efforts upset a lot of people. In his speech titled The College's Use of Its Past, Dr. William C. Plaker wrote of the result, quote, "The football team started losing, enrollment dropped from 500 to 350, and irate alumni stopped contributing. The students ridiculed Hopkins in plays, and one trustee even told him, quote, 'I just don't believe that you're the right man for the job that must be done.'" Hopkins served as president for 14 years before he was killed by a heart attack during the most intense effort to bring about his demise. We owe much of the proud tradition of academic excellence to the leadership of President Hopkins, and even though he did not get applauded in his time, we all recognize the appropriateness of his actions today. I say this not to dismiss people who question the decisions made by administrators over the last 4 years. I have had many a public forum to do that. I think that there is room for people to disagree without being disagreeable. I know that this college can only become a better place if everyone has bought into that effort. We may not all agree on the steps that need to be taken to make Wabash a better place, but we can all agree that this is a noble end, and I hope that you will join me in pursuing it. I have been told that it has been said that Kyle Bender and I will have a difficult job as class agents of keeping the men of the class of 2012 together because of the tumultuous times we spent here. I hope that is not the case. If you are coming to the end of your time here with the sense that you are upset about an action that was taken, withdrawing from the debate will not help. We need you to be involved in that debate. I say this to all the other students here today too, and the faculty and coaches who are here, or even the ones who are absent because they continue to schedule meetings during chapel hour. They shouldn't do that. I hope that is a practice that will one day change. I say to the alumni who will watch this talk on YouTube, if you're upset, don't withdraw, be involved, and work to make things better. In his inaugural address, President John F. Kennedy issued this charge to those who lived in his time. In the long history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it. I do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation. I hope that the same can be said of our generation. When met with tough times, we did not run from them. We met them and made Wabash a better place. Some of you may know or may not know that I have known to be occasionally dabble in singing karaoke. In fact, Jeff Solar and Ben Burkett can certainly attest to that. I will not torture you with singing karaoke today, but one of my favorite songs to sing is Frank Sinatra's My Way. When the history of the class of 2012 is written, I hope that it goes something like this. Yes, there were times, I'm sure you knew, when we bit off more than we could chew. But through it all, when there was doubt, we ate it up and spit it out. The record shows we took the blows and did it our way. Thank you. God bless you, and may God continue to bless Wabash College. But first, a couple of announcements to make. Today at 4 p.m., baseball takes on Robert Morris College from Chicago. At 7 o'clock tonight is the awards chapel here. On Saturday, golf competes at the North Coast Athletic Conference Tournament. Baseball travels to Greencastle to take on DePaul at noon. Tennis competes in the NCAC tournament. The Glee Club Senior Concert is over in the Fine Arts Center at 4 p.m. on Saturday, and track is competing in the NCAC championships. Sunday, golf and tennis continue. Also, on Saturday from 2 to 5 p.m., the first ever community yard sale at Wabash will be hosted over in Detchen. All the proceeds from table rental will go directly to Shifting Ideas Through Education for African Women. Renting half a table is $10 or a whole table for $15 if you all, especially seniors, have some things that you'd like to get rid of before you graduate here in the next week. Lastly, tomorrow's the last day of classes here at Wabash. Best of luck next week on finals. Please rise and sing Old Wabash.